Hello again, this is Brynja Magnusson explaining part 2 of reading your I Ching hexagram. So there's something about the hexagram that I threw in the last video, the 64, that I did not explain. And that is, how do you read into the lines? Because when you get changing lines, that means something. So what does it mean? When you get the lines in a traditional I Ching book, it gives you extra information. So let's go to the 64th chapter here, before contemplation. It'll give you its advice in the I Ching. And then at the end of the chapter, it'll tell you about the lines. And so it'll say 6 at the beginning, 9 in the second. So that's saying if you threw the 6, this X line for the first line, then you read this, but we didn't. So we don't need to read this part. We don't need to read this extra advice. If you threw 9 in the second place, but we didn't, but if we did, then you read this piece of advice. If you threw 6 in the third place, which we did not, then you read this chapter, then you read this little bit. If you threw 9 in the fourth place, then you read this, and we did. So this hexagram is saying, yes, read the whole chapter, that's what you need to know, but you also need to know this, 9 in the fourth. This is pertinent to what you asked. 6 in the fifth place, we got the 6 here in the fifth place, so we read this as well. And then the last one, 9 at the top, 9 in the sixth place. We also got this, so we would read this as well. So we got 3 additional pieces of advice. Sometimes you won't throw any changing lines, and that's okay. It's just saying all you need to know is just the main bulk of the chapter. There's no additional information that's being asked of you to learn. Now, in this book, there is a very brief summary of the lines. The lines in themselves tell an entire story, and there was just not room to put in all of the interpretations. It's a whole Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole to go down the lines, but I put in a very basic, very basic aspect of what each line is kind of saying. So here it's saying 6 in the first, 9 in the second, 9 in the fourth, 6 in the fifth, 9 in the sixth. So we got these top 3, 9 in the fourth, 6 in the fifth, 9 in the sixth. So we can read these 3 little pieces of information here in addition to what we got. But it also might be beneficial to look it up in a pure I Ching hexagram interpretation, in a pure I Ching book, because that will give you a lot more information. Now, what also we can do with an I Ching hexagram that has changing lines is see what it's changing to. They're changing because they're unstable. They're moving to another hexagram. So we can actually calculate what this hexagram is changing to. Now, what does this actually mean? The I Ching is the book of now. It's the book of where are you now and where are you changing to? So if you threw this hexagram with no lines, that's just saying you are here now. This is all you have to look at for right now. But when you throw a hexagram with changing lines, it's saying, yes, you're here now, but you're in transition to something else, and here's what you're transitioning to. So let's calculate that. This is becoming. Here's how you do the calculation. Any line that's not changing, you keep the same. That's the same, it's a broken line, the 8. This is the same as well, it's not a changing line, it's just a normal 7th line. Here we have the 8th line again, that was unchanging, so it stays unchanging. But here in the top trigram, they're all changing lines. So this changes. Now this is a whole line, it's a yang line with that circle, it's saying it's whole. So this being a whole line, it's going to switch polarities. So instead of being yang, like the second line here, it's going to transform to a yin line. This is going from male to female. Now the next line is a female line. It's a broken line. So we're going to translate this now to a male line. It's becoming an unbroken line. And at the top, again, we have a male line becoming a female line. And now we have our new hexagram. So we look up, what does this mean? What is it? So at the bottom, it's the same as it was before. Broken, whole, broken, con. And at the top, it's switched to also be con. Broken, whole, broken. Now that's becoming the 29. There you go. So let's look that up. I'm moving towards the 29. The 29. It's a bit of an ominous hexagram for those who don't know. And it is called the abysmal. I'm not going to go into it, but it's very interesting and it's giving you advice of how to deal with this situation. The I Ching, human design, gene keys, not in this chapter, animal totem, and reverse totem. So you can pair this together with the 64 saying now and moving towards. So that gives you your changing line and your changing hexagram. And this can give you a little more insight about where you're moving towards or what to expect or the direction you're heading. And there's two additional hexagram translations you can do that give you the opposite and the nucleus of this hexagram. And perhaps I will do that in a different video, but for now, thank you for watching. I hope this was informative, and I'm looking forward to explaining the next one.